This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Ghired Mirror of the Wilds versus Marwyn, Felix 5 boots, and Urza Chief Artificer. Heavy hand, but we've got lands. No, if we had a means of making at least one token, then I'd probably keep that, but we do want to be accelerating ahead. And if that was a green mana, I'd keep that, but there's no guarantee we'll get into green here. If I wasn't recording, I'd keep that for the fun of it and see how long it takes us to top deck into a green mana and then catch up with the Sylvan Library, but we'll mulligan on that as well. Okay, that's looking a bit better. We keep, get rid of the concealment and get on with the game. Draw on turn 1 into another land. We'll start off with a Surveil land, so that, as usual, we can try and fix our draws. Alright, Shamanic Revelation is quite a ways away, but I don't think I'll regret keeping it. So the loose game plan at the moment is to try and get probably our commander down on turn 4-ish, then Terror of the Peaks, and then we'll have to hope that we survive a turn so that we can make a token copy of Terror of the Peaks, and then both the commander and this will make copies of the token, and it'll be damage galore, but this all depends on our opponents pointing their interaction at each other in the meantime. Turn 1 Mana Crypt for Felix into Kodama of the West Tree, which is not currently modified, and a turn 1 Findhorn Elves from the Elf player. So we know what we're drawing into this turn, we know we don't have anything to do, so just play the Savannah and tap out. Double blue from Urza is never good. And now we see a Fire Shrieker, which will be a means of modifying the Kodama, meaning it will Rampant Growth twice upon hitting, and swings in towards the Elf player. A Cultivate from the green player. Okay, Skyshroud Claim means that we don't hold off on our commander then. We'll go Skyshroud Claim on turn 4, so yeah, try and curve out here. Go for our commander. Even though there's nothing to do with it yet, we might just be inviting some removal. And I'll just turn in sideways at the Elf player as well. Sparring Construct, when it dies, put a plus counter on a creature you control, but sticking at hardly any colours and missing a land on turn 3 is not good. Best hope he's got a Chromatic Lantern in hand. Fire Shrieker equipped, and then a hit for 3 goes at the Elf deck. Or actually a hit for 3 twice, and we'll get the Rampant Growths. Able to get an island to fix his colours, and another swamp, and then an Umezawa's Jitte. Haven't looked at the new Jitte actually. Need to have a look at that one and see if it'll go in any decks. Marwyn on turn 3, followed by a Thought Vessel. We're seeing some unusual cards for an Elf deck in Cultivate and Thought Vessel. Tends to go all in on the mana dorks. Alright, if we get into another land during the next couple of turns, then it wouldn't be the worst. There is a giant Adaphage, which we're a ways from yet. Not too far away from though. Yeah, if we get into a land next turn, we'll have 7 lands, which means we can go Terror of the Peaks and Twin Flame in one turn, which will be ideal, so that Terror of the Peaks doesn't have to survive a turn cycle. Anyway, we'll go for Skyshroud Claim. We can... I'll go for the Tricycle land and we'll Surveil once, just in case we want to keep something on top. The Surveil won't be a waste. Alright, and there is a land on top, so we will keep that. And we've got our plan for next turn, hoping that Ghired will survive. Umezawa's Jitte is going to be a real issue with Double Strike though, and I don't see Urza doing anything about it. And Urza, once again, just deciding to pass through the turn, kept a terrible opening hand by the looks of it. Not sure how many cards he mulliganed down to. Yeah, he just kept the opening 7, I think. We're on turn 4 now, and he's got 8, 9, 10, 11 cards we've seen. So I don't think he mulliganed down to 6 or anything. Getting rid of the Hero of Dominaria is fine with me. Seeing Felix 5 boots for the first time. So he's going to trigger Umezawa a bunch, and the Kodama a bunch as well. And I don't think they have to deal combat damage to a player with this, it's just any combat damage, yeah. So blocks don't matter here, although it has trample anyway, so going up against the 1-1. Alright, so 2 triggers on the Kodama, 2 triggers on the Jitte, and that's just from the first strike. And this player decided to scoop. I mean, I can't really blame him with the opening that Felix has had here, although he should have tried to mulligan into a better hand than that. So then second strike is going to get the triggers again. So mercilessly just blowing up the Marwyn straight away. Can get rid of every creature in play at the moment. So see if the green player can get rid of any artifacts. Explosive Veggies, again, unusual in an Elf deck. Although I'd be glad of that type of ramp when there's a Jitte in play. Oh, he does have the Rex Sage as well, excellent. So it has to go after the Jitte, you would assume here, and we'll assume that the Ghired goes down. But that does change the tide. Does go after the Jitte. So blows up Findhorn Elves in response. Goes after Rexage in response. 5 counters left. Starts going after Ghired as well. So maybe we're just going for Giant Adaphage, although do we want to... We want to play that into a few Terror of the Peaks, I think. And then you might as well gain some life here, I think. Yeah, it's life gain and buffs. Alright, so, let's see what we can do here. There's the Scalding Tarn, doesn't matter quite as much now, but we can go for another Surveil Land with that. So, do we go for Terror of the Peaks and Twin Flame anyway, even though we can't make copies of it? Allow them to keep ramping with this. They've already got plenty of mana, I don't know if the extra mana is going to matter. Because if we go for our commander, we're not going to be able to go for Heat Shimmer afterwards, if we go for Terror and Twin Flame now. And yeah, we want to keep the tokens in play really, so let's go for our commander again. And then Scalding Tarn can just get us into a Surveil Land, I think. And on top is a Mondrax, so yeah, we're not getting into too much mana at the moment, unfortunately, so that's a bit of a win more card we'll have to put into the bin. Try and get into something more relevant. Need to bear in mind with damage from Terror of the Peaks that Felix does have Ward 2 for some reason. I mean, it's 5 mana, so you could argue for the Ward 2. But it's in colours that give protection as well, so... Fire Shrieker being put onto the commander. So I'm going to try and get some commander damage through here, maybe. A Rankle. And Kodama goes in. Yeah, we're getting the commander and the other two go in to the right. Is this each player? Yeah, it's each player discards a card, unfortunately. So we'll just take the hit from the commander. Kodama still triggers twice. And then the double strike, so 6 mana left up. Not sure what Rankle's going for here. Each player loses a life and draws a card. And doing that again. Alright, so we've got another land to make. And a Molten Duplication, alright. So Terror of the Peaks, hopefully going to do some work for us. If our opponent would be so kind as to tap his blue mana. There's a Bident of Thassa to help refill his hand. And a Mask of Memory as well, so hopefully we have free reign. Hurricane, X damage to each creature with flying, so extras 3 on that and gets rid of the Rankle. The green player is playing it out and he is relevant here. Plenty of artifact and enchantment removal. A Zealot will get rid of the Fire Shrieker or the Bident of Thassa. Probably double strike is the best thing to go after here. So even though he's not much chance of winning here, he is playing it out and having relevance to the game, which is exactly what you should do. I appreciate him playing it out. Decides to go after the Bident of Thassa. I mean, yeah, fine. It draws cards. Alright, let's see what we get here. Another land for us. So we've got, just to double check, 6, 7, 8 mana. So we're only copying with a Terror of the Peaks sorcery once. So we'll go for the Twin Flame, I think. Just playing a basic will be fine. Just in case we need to shuffle or get out of tap land with the Catacombs. Could have done it this turn actually, getting out of tap land. Terror of the Peaks. Then Twin Flame onto Terror of the Peaks. Not sure if we can actually get rid of the Sultai player here, but we'll try. So make a haste copy of Terror of the Peaks. And that triggers, put 5 damage here. Then we make another copy. It'll be 5 damage twice, so that's 15 in total. And then swing in with both of them for 10. Yeah, we can't pay the ward on this anyway, so we'll just target our opponent. And with that on the stack, make a copy of the Terror of the Peaks that entered this turn. So there we go, there's the 2 triggers. So that's 15 points of damage on those, because 5 damage or 5 power on them. May well be that our opponent can buff this up by 1 and get us with commander damage next turn. But we can block with this Terror of the Peaks if we want to. And then we'll take Felix down to 6. And we'll see if we can survive until our next turn. Twin Flame going to exile. Noteworthy that it only exiles the token that it made a copy of. So when we make a token copy of the copy that was Twin Flamed, it doesn't get exiled at the end of the turn because the clause is on the Twin Flame token, not the Ghired token. In other words, we get to keep this. So with 4 cards in hand, let's see what Felix can do here. Can get some more card draw with the Mask of Memory this turn as well, because our opponent didn't go for the Fire Shrieker, but if he hadn't gone for the Bident of Thassa, there would have been card draw there anyway. Does get to draw more this way though. Don't think our opponents... I think he's only taken like one hit to the crypt this turn as well, or this game. 5-4 in at us. They have to deal damage to us, I think. Yeah, to a player, so we'll just have to give up on Terror of the Peaks, I think. Do they have Trample? Oh no, it has Menace, so forget that. I think if it has Trample, that would have been a mistake anyway. Yes, it does, so even if we could have blocked here, it would have trampled through Terror of the Peaks, hit with the Mask of Memory, and then the double strike would have gone through as well, so might as well just keep the Terror of the Peaks at this point. But Menace made our decision for us. So it's Rampant Growths with the Kodama. Draw 2 and discard with Mask of Memory will refill the hand nicely. And yeah, I think I definitely would have got rid of Fire Shrieker personally. Can he buff his commander at instant speed is the question. A Grimo Wormtongue being discarded with the first Mask of Memory. And then discarding one with Nature. So hitting us again, taking us to 20 points of commander damage. No danger of going down to commander damage at this point, but could well answer the board. And now they get into Okina. A phase too late, unfortunately, because that would have had rid of us. Discarded a Forest and an Elves of Deep Shadow, and Demonic Tutor could really hurt us here. Although if the board's wiped, there's nothing to stop us going for Giant Adderphage and making a token of it next turn. So there's the Great Henge, a means of gaining life. I don't imagine that's what he tutored for. Sword of Hearth and Home, I wouldn't have thought that would be the target either. Pro green and white onto the commander. Maybe he's got an extra turn card or something like that. There we go, Toxic Deluge, where X is 4, so going down to 4, we will put our commander back in the command zone. Then there's Lightning Greaves, he's only got one tapped creature, and potentially counter magic. Nope, tapping out is fine with me. There's a Malcolm, which won't help him. So the plan is for the Giant Adderphage here to draw a card there, so I might have Force of Will, but it's not likely. Although could go for a Fierce Guardianship onto the Molten Duplication. Now let's see if the elf player can do anything else relevant, because he's definitely been a relevant player this game. A Realm Walker can allow him to play cards off the top if he's lucky. Seen quite a few non-elf permanents though. 2 cards in hand, and we'll see if he's able to play anything. And able to play Rishkar off the top, still those 2 cards in hand. So plus counter on each of these, we'll have them tap for a green each. And there we see Growing Rights of Itlimoc from the hand, so can't transform that yet. Does grab him a creature when it enters though, that is Elvish Visionary, which he can't quite afford. Might have put a Dork on top though. Alright, so both of our opponents tapped out. Let's see if we can get rid of the Sultai player here. There is a Generous Gift, although Lightning Greaves is now relevant. So we'll go Verdant Catacombs. Crack the Catacombs. That can just be a forest for the sake of saving life. And then Giant Adderphage. And whenever this deals combat damage to a player, we create a token that's a copy of it. Let's go for the Molten Duplication onto this. Drawn into just the perfect cards, it seems. Don't necessarily like the cards at the time, but can eventually make something out of them. So then we are able to swing in a 7/7 Trample to the left. And that can go through the 2 toughness. Make sure to block with Malcolm. And we do get enough damage through here, thankfully. Would have had to dodge the Mana Crypt as well, but he's done a good job of doing that all game. So against all odds, the 2 of us managed to gang up and get rid of Terrax. Appreciate the elf player actually playing it out. And we do get the trigger with the Giant Adderphage, which is an artifact copy thanks to the Molten Duplication. And we do have to sacrifice this at the end step. But like I said previously, this is the one that came in with the attacks, so we do get to keep the artifact token. And has the client crashed? There we go, yeah, keeping the artifact variant, which might make it a bit more fragile against a green player. And there we go, Freyalise can get rid of it. Instead deciding to tick up and make a token that we can trample through. And there's the Elvish Visionary as well to cantrip. If we get into a land next turn, we can go for our commander and Heat Shimmer, and then make a few more Adderphages. Otherwise it might be Heat Shimmer and Shamanic Revelation. Maybe get rid of the Realm Walker, depending on how our opponent blocks. Still 1 card in hand, and we'll be able to flip this around next turn. Lysolana Huntmaster. Surprised I didn't get that down before now, because that was from hand. Anyway, has a decent amount of toughness in play here. And we're kind of forcing him to block at this point. So Growing Rights of Itlimoc spins round, and it'd be funny if the elf player managed to win after all this. Certainly deserves it. Okay, we do get into a land, so let me just double check. Commander costs 7, I think. Yeah, it costs 7, meaning we'd have 3 left over for the Heat Shimmer. Make a copy of this, then another copy of it, So that's 14, 28 damage from these. Minus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that should be enough with our opponent empty-handed, assuming he can't do anything at flash speed. So shot down the Sacred Foundry. We get to use Ghired here at least, which we haven't seen too much of this game. At lands, we go Heat Shimmer onto the Adaphage, the non-artifact one I'm going to make a copy of. And then we'll just use Ghired to make a token copy. Could use the Adaphage here as well, which might actually be a better idea because then we'll be able to keep the haste copy. It'll give us more copies of Adaphage this way, won't it? Or actually, with the Heat Shimmer, it's the token that has, at the beginning of the end step, exile this permanent. So, as we can see here, that does have the ability. So we won't keep these ones, unlike with the other means of making tokens. Anyway, it's not of any relevance here, hopefully. So we attack in at our opponent, not at the Freya Lease, and that should be that. So there we go, down to minus 17. Didn't bother with the blocks, and we would have got 4 copies of the giant Adaphage there anyway. So yeah, it turned out to be an interesting one in the end. I was worried that with the Sultai player going off so quickly, it was going to be boring. Interesting to see that commander, but when it's a one-sided game, it's not my favourite ones to upload, to be honest. But sometimes you just have those games where you go off. Everyone on Magic Online runs Mana Crypt after all. Anyway, if you want to see more from it, as ever, let me know in the comments section. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as well. You can do that yourself via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.